Hello everyone, Michael Molthan, into the Rock, coming to you from Dallas, Texas, D-Town, the 214. I had to throw that in there. Man, we got a great show today. Special shout out to our great friend, Ken Jocelyn, who made this incredible connection with this powerhouse man that I got to know and meet in person in Scottsdale, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Scottsdale we met?
Yep, that's where we went. Phoenix, Scottsdale. I don't know where it's at. Somewhere in Arizona, sunny Arizona.
I can't remember where we met, but it was fun. It was fun. Yeah. And we did a show, and just what an honor to meet you. My man, Anthony Trucks, inspirational, well-known across the world, inspirational speaker, motivational speaker. Man, he's got some content out there. Anthony, let me gas you up here just a little bit to start this out. You ready? Anthony is a former NFL player turned transformational identity shift coach. Okay, is that Omaha shift Omaha?
Taco banana.
There we go. We'll get into that. You may not understand what it means at the moment, but I assure you that as you read his story or you hear his story, you will know. And we will have the link to anthonytrucks.com. That's anthonytrucks.com in the description. Make sure that you subscribe, like, share this out, and you're in for a good show. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here with you, man.
Man, I'm really, we were talking, before we went, started recording, and we've been texting back and forth this week. You're a former Oregon Duck.
I am. Well, yeah, I'm a former Oregon Duck athlete. I'm forever a Duck, though.
That's true. I was trying to take that back. Right when it was coming out, it was kind of like we're not a former Christian. I mean, once a Christian, always a Christian, right? But it's that's the analogy I can use. Anthony was offered a full ride scholarship to the University of Oregon and achieved the ultimate goal of going pro in the NFL. Yeah. By the age of 25, he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. Now, you're talking to a Dallas Cowboy. I mean, just diehard over here. Okay. By the way,
here we go.
How'd you let us beat you? How'd you let us beat you this year?
Man, the funny thing is, I'm not gonna lie. Once you get done playing in the NFL, it's not like you're like a college. I'll forever and always bleed green and yellow. But the NFL, it's a job, man. It's kind of this weird thing where it's like I have love for the teammates I played with. The coaches were great coaches, but the organization, I had some funny stuff take place, man. So I wouldn't say I'm like a massive diehard Steelers fan by any means whatsoever. I also played for two other teams. But no, man, it's always fun to watch the NFL and see what goes on. But I'm definitely more a lover of the game and my teammates more than I am an actual team at the NFL level.
So, I want to start this way. I was thinking about this, this morning, and God, there's so much to talk about with you. And I was doing a little research on you, diving in, and you tackle kind of like what I do. You tackle every topic, and providing solutions. And you're very energetic, very charismatic. If you haven't checked him out, anthonytrucks.com, and go look at his motivational. But as a young kid, let's just go back in time at the age of 6, 7.
Yeah.
It's pretty accurate, and I can relate. I mean, at the age of 6 or 7, during football season, I wanted to be a pro football player, and during basketball season, I wanted to be a pro basketball player or a pro golfer, and that's valid. But we don't dream and inspire at the young age of being a motivational speaker.
Oh no!
And it's usually a result of a story, and you've got a story, and I kind of want what prompted you to get into motivational speaking? And I know your story. Yeah. You took your pain and misery and turned it into a testimony, turned it into a story to help people.
Yeah, but it was not intentional. That's a weird thing about it. It's interesting. In the world of what I do, at some point, obviously, I had to get the bug to want to be great at this thing because I didn't start out great. I was horrible as a speaker. At one point, I had an agent be like, "You can't keep doing what you're doing because you're not good at this." I'm like, "Oh, I got to figure it out, right?" And I say that to say at some point I had to latch on, but I didn't have a desire growing up to do this. And to be honest, I was never introduced to motivational speakers until probably my mid 30s, man. Maybe. Yeah, like early 30s probably. And so the reality was I had this life of me going through crazy. Like you'd mentioned before, grew up in foster care, had an interesting childhood there, adopted by an all-white family, very poor growing up, didn't have much. Had to navigate the pitfalls of being a foster kid, like not feeling like you mattered, not fitting in. And then at a certain point in time, I got to this moment where I tried this game of football, and I had this enamored feeling of like, I want to do so great at this game. And like a lot of us, you try something new and you realize you suck at it. Wasn't catching footballs, couldn't make tackles. I'm getting tackled if I got the ball. Like, it wasn't fun, because not only is it emotionally feeling like, oh, I'm not good at this, you could physically feel it in football,
Right.
This moment where I kind of tucked away, and a lot of us do that. We find moments where it's too hard, the dream was going to be too difficult, so we make good excuses to run from it. So I did that. I tucked away. I kind of didn't do it. And then at a moment in time in high school, I had this thing just woke me up. And I go, I want to be great at something. And the thing I could choose at the time was football. So I leaned back into this game, and I did what I call dark work. It's work that nobody saw, nobody celebrated. In fact, most people made fun of me. Like my own teammates, like, look at this skinny guy in the weight room. Like, look at this guy with no finger. He can't catch a football. And people will poke and prod you, because when you start trying something new, what happens is the individuals who are closest to you, they're aware it's not part of your current identity. They're aware it's not who you are. And so they don't know this thing. And so what they do is they make a comment at the nuance, and it tucks you back in the box, put you right back where you don't want to be. And so I heard that, but thankfully I was like, I don't care. I want to be a great football player. And I kept doing what great football players do against my internal voice and external voices, both going, hey, you shouldn't do this. Little by little, I did it. And I got to a point where not only did I get more skilled, I got more mean. I had this, we all have this investment bias. When you give to something, you want something in return. For me, with giving to football the reps, the day after day of catching a football 500 times out of the air, running routes and lifting weights, just giving to it. Like, I'm talking, I didn't want to, but I knew I had to do it. That's the discipline part. I got this dog in me, man. Like I had done so much that return on the investment was integrity, honesty, like a sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. And so you didn't get to beat me today. I'm sorry. Like, you didn't work the way I worked. What makes you think that ball's in the air is your ball now? No, it's mine. I earned that in the off season. You weren't here for it, right? And I had this dog in me, this mentality of I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. And so it progressed into me getting a college scholarship. Had a kid in college, started my true sophomore year in college, eventually progressed to the NFL, did the NFL thing, and kind of moved through. Life fell apart a couple times, got myself back on the horse a few times. And it was one of those things where I noticed, when you've lost a career in the NFL, then I lost my marriage, lost my family, got remarried, like all these things kind of came full circle. I noticed there was something, like you mentioned earlier, in my life that is of value to people. And I didn't see it as this desire to serve. To be honest with you, most of it was like catharsis. I was like, I had it all in me. I needed to get it out, At first there was shame, a lot of it, because I'm like, man, I'm not going to be ostracized by sharing these dark depths of me. Like, I didn't grow up as this guy being taught how to talk about my feelings and share it with the world. And so I did it, and people loved it. And I was like, oh man, not only does it feel good coming out, they're receiving it positively. And that was where the bug grabbed. That's where this whole idea of being a keynote speaker took off, because it was like, well, I not only have God-given gifts that I can't fathom what else I'm supposed to do with them but share them, right? I can't see I've actually tried to do a thought experiment of what else can Anthony do with his life? I don't know. Like, I've tried. I don't know what to do there, Michael. And so I got these traits to talk and speak and have a compassionate heart for people. I have empathy, but also, I'll tell you the truth. Like, I may have empathy for your situation, but not for your excuse of why you're there. There's a separation. And so I will dive in, but in doing so, like, I can't, even with that desire, without a life having been lived the way mine was and navigated and crossed some finish lines, I wouldn't be of much use to the world. And so for me now, I've crossed some finish lines, so I feel comfortable telling other people how to run some races. And I have a desire to help them, which has led to me figuring out, well, how do you help them, in process and frameworks and teaching? And so I show up in the world as a guy that's living my life like everybody else, but in certain areas, I'm doing better than most. And I say that in a humble, as humble as I can say, I'm doing better than most, not by accident, because I've worked towards it, but in doing that and maintaining that, I'm still of value and benefit to the world. So I give back from what I know and what I'm doing.
You bring up a lot of things, and as we're talking, I'm remembering now some conversations that we had offline when we were face to face, and I want to get back to that. But what is the most common thing that you see where men get stuck? When that they're stuck, they can't get to the finish line, and what you talk about based off your personal experience, what do you see?
There's a lot of different levels. I'll say the first tripping block is ego. And ego, they say, edging God out. I call it everyone's greatest obstacle.
Mm.
You think about it this way. If I need you to work on something and I tell you what it is and your ego rears up, what happens is you will not give yourself permission to work on that thing.
Mhm.
You'll condone it, you'll justify, you'll refute it in some way. So you'll never actually go, I should probably do that. I got a son. I got two, but my youngest is this butthead right now. Where like I tell him to do things and I go, why are you quietly rebelling? What do you mean? I go, I tell you to do something. Here's the problem. You know it's the right thing to do, don't you? Yeah. I go, but then why don't you do it like it's your idea? Well, I don't know. And I go, I know. It's because you have this ego. Like for some reason, you think that if you do it, it's going to be because dad told me to. The reality is that's my job. My job's to
Yeah.
make you, I'm the only man in your life that really, 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 really wants to see you do better than him. Other people can say yes, and and then there's people, I've even done it in my own head. Like, do I want to see other people do better than me? And I'm like, yes, but then my heart goes, but no, like, and I'm being honest. I'm like, I want to see men do well 100%, but better than me. It's like, I don't know. And it gives me just enough pause to question my boys though. Oh, yeah, go kill it. Right. So I
Right.
go, your ego, man, it gets in the way. And I go, the problem is that's your obstacle because when you are now aware of what needs to be done, but your ego won't let you do it because of whatever reason, you never give it full energy. And if you don't give it full energy, you'll never get the outcome you desire. So when you ask about people, what's the thing? It's most men, especially in the world nowadays, where everything is on display. No
Mm.
one wants to look less than. No one
Mm.
wants to admit they need help. No one wants to be able to have anybody see them sweat, right? Oh, I'm not perfect. But the moment you point out imperfection, they have an ego that rears up to justify and make them feel better about themselves. So the social media world doesn't see them as doing, less than. So I think that's really the biggest issue is that first admittance of like, I got to work on this. Because once somebody does, when someone goes, all right, I'm going to do that, men can usually find something. Women can find it too, but you can find that thing that can bring you to kind of muster the energy up. Now, yes, some folks have no idea how to plan. They can't stay disciplined. There's no accountability. That becomes another bigger issue down the line. But the first step, dude, is just giving yourself permission to improve on something by letting your ego take a break.
Right. And, I want to touch on something here because we'll talk about trauma for a second. And you and I both can relate to that, going through childhood trauma and
Yeah.
you growing up in the foster system. I can't relate to that. And this is what struck me right when you started talking. I remember a story that you told of you. I'm going to get this wrong. I want you to clear it up for me. Where you're literally sitting at the window waiting for your mom. Am I getting that correct? With your
100%.
backpack? And
Yeah.
please tell that story and
Yeah.
how that story, how it changed and really made you who you are today.
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of these weird stories, man. So this was when I was a kid, I would do, these visitations because I wasn't with my mom. I was at foster homes. In foster homes, you have time where you can leave the house with a social worker. They take you to these areas. Like ours was in Martinez, California. It's this building. And you go in there and there's like toys in a room and you go in, it's monitored visitations. So your mom can show up, your dad can show up. No, I didn't have my dad. He left my mom well before I was born. Just my mom was the one in the picture. And she was supposed to be at visitation. She would never show up. It was the weirdest thing. Like she just wouldn't be there. And so when she doesn't show up, they elongate the time between visits because like, well, if she's not going to show up now, she's not going to show up in 2 weeks. So it goes from 2 weeks to, a month to 2 months, 2 months, three. It just kept going. I rarely ever see her like in a year. Anyways, every time she'd miss, I'd go home. She'd call me on the phone and she would have a simple like a statement as to an excuse as to why she wasn't able to make it that day. And did you know it was crazy excuses. Like the things she would make up were like, oh yeah, I was doing something for NASA. I'm a Mensa member, or she owned Apple. It was the weirdest things. And in hindsight, you're like, that's crazy. But as a kid, it's your mom. Like, oh, it's so cool, mom, right? And she goes, hey, do this. I want you to do this. Pack a bag. I want you to wait by the window at 8 o'clock. I'm going to drive by. I'm going to pick you up. We're going to live our life together. Now, this is diabolical for a foster kid because all we want is to go home. I mean, you could ask me do you want $1 million? No, I want to go home. Do you want to have, every brand new shoes? No, I want to go home. That's it. I want to go home. And so for her to offer that up on a platter and say, I'm going to be there and then like have you packed a bag, I would literally sit there at 8 o'clock at night, bag packed. My foster family didn't know it's a secret. I'd be waiting. And all of a sudden you see this, it was this kind of old rickety little house, but I remember it was like the window on my bedroom faced the street. It's probably 20 feet from my window to the sidewalk and then the street. And I'm sitting there all night, just, 8 o'clock, I'm waiting and I watch a car go by and your heart races and you see the lights kind of go and then it just goes by. And then you're just sitting there like, okay, it's 8:15. She's gonna be here. And sure enough, lights show up and then they drive by. And then after, an hour of this by 9 o'clock, and I'm a little kid, I'm talking, this is happening between the age of like 6 and 14. And it would just go on. She'd do it every time. And every time it'd be an excuse. And it just kept, and it could pile. And every morning I would wake up and until the age of 14, I'd wet the bed every night that it happened. And she never failed to do it. And it wasn't until like 14 when I finally go, I'm tripping. She's not going to show up. And that's when I finally made some steps to sever my parental rights, get adopted by the family I was with. But that was my childhood, man, is just dealing with this. I don't fit in at home because I'm the foster kid. They love me, but I was the only black kid in an all white family. Only black kid in my elementary school. So I didn't fit in, like, in a sense there. I got called a bunch of racial slurs every day. I'm fighting. I got ADD. I'm always in trouble. At home, I had my first foster dad was a drunk. He used to beat my mom. I got my biological mom who she's just lying to me and I'm crying myself to sleep at night. I have the social workers. They got way too many people in their caseload. I have no connection to my siblings. Like, dude, I'm a leaf in the wind floating. There is such a stirring of chaos in me and anger and pain and frustration and just all these aspects that I don't know what is heads from tails, dude. And just that was my reality. And it is hard for me to say that and have somebody go, I get what you're saying, or I feel that.
Yeah.
Because it's such a nuanced experience. But I will say this. While it's a nuanced experience, it's not a nuanced set of feelings. People feel these things. Different things trigger the same feelings. And so I'm not sitting here going like, oh, you can never see, you'll never get it. People can get it. If you've ever felt like it didn't matter, felt like everything was just kind of all over the place, no structure, all chaos, you felt it before. It just happened for me earlier and longer than most.
And so that's real trauma. I mean, that's betrayal, that's abandonment. It's a lack of trust.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're on the moon. I mean, you're out there all alone. So my next question is what happened? I mean, where was the awakening where that resentment and anger and the forgiveness took place and you are who you are today? That now, because when I watch you and hear you, and I think this is safe to say, to speak for you and myself, we both turned our trauma into a gift.
Yeah. The word gets it now, for sure.
Yeah. So where was that awakening?
Many stages to get there. It was a compound effect. I don't even think it really took place until it was like 2011. And I was like, no, was it 20? It might have been 2010 or something. No. It was 2009. All right, I got it. I know what it was. It was a moment. Here's what it took place. Over my life, I've had a lot of different situations rise, and then I had to tackle them. And I did, right? So the first wave was this football thing. I call it a dark work experience. I went through the window of doing things in the dark that it rewired me neurologically and psychologically. The first wave of this was when I was 15. I told you about football, and I got good. That offseason, man, I found that I could become who I wanted to by the things I did. That's everybody. Every one of us has a wiring that is who we are. Like you talk about trauma. I love the statement that says, smooth seas never made skilled sailors. I got a painting on my wall. It's right here. I could see it every day when I get up. And
that is so powerful.
It is. And it's, for me, I look at it as, I hate to say it, like, trauma exists, right? It happens. But for me, I look at it and go like, I don't have to give it the power over me in the manner that most would like it to, or like, well, you're so angry because of foster care, right? I go, no, I mean, that was part of it, but it was life. And I realized that people's lives are different, but here's what it was. For me, it was rough seas, and I was out in the ocean, but I learned how to sail. And so it showed up for me in a way where I could go, I'm going to put this into football. And I redirected all the energy towards being great at a game of football. And it took me to a place. Then I got to college, and I had found my biological father, and I had a kid at 20 years old, and I wanted to start in Oregon. So I had to redirect that energy again. I found a way to lean into it. Then the NFL comes, and I got to find a way to fight through that. Then I lose, my career, and I come home, and this is where I get really picked up. Is I had a moment in time where I find out, my marriage is falling apart. I'm about to be divorced. Things just went crazy sideways. And I quite literally was like, I don't want to be on this planet anymore. If this is life, man, this is like 25 years of just it's never been good. Like, it's been good, but always with a caveat. There's always an asterisk on it. I've never had a good year with no craziness. And I'm like, why? Dude, why me, God? Like, this is nonstop, dude, because can't get a break. It's just always something. And then I had a buddy one time. And so this is what took place. I sent a text to my friends and family and I said, please tell my kids who their father was. It was like, it amounted to too much for me. Thankfully, never took any actions to take my life. I couldn't find a store that was open to find what I needed at that night. It was just a good level. We'll call it a turn of events in a positive way.
Right.
Like
There you go.
good storm. I found myself sitting at a gas station somewhere. Police find me. They send me home, and I go home and I pull up, and a whole bunch of people had been looking for me. It just was kind of really shameful and embarrassing. The next day, though, I had a buddy talk to me, and he goes, "Hey, I want to let you know. First off, never in your life do no shit like that again." He's like, just super clear. I was like, all right, I got you. He says, secondly, I threw up in the toilet when I found out. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I thought I'd lost a hero. And I go, what do you mean? I remember a buddy of yours. Like, we played high school football together. You're one of my employees. Like, we tell him, he goes, no. I've known you for years. He says, our community, we've all watched what you've gone through. We know your life. And we also have seen what you've accomplished. And you've come back here. You're still helping the community. He goes, you may not realize it, but your life is a great inspiration to a lot of people. And so it's interesting because sometimes you get this interesting gift you can do nothing with. Because while I say that, you got to realize, like, I was not in a place to be inspirational. You know, the day before, 2 days before, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore, dude. You know, and so to then go like, here's like, well, your life should be great. I wasn't in that, you know.
We didn't have anything to give away.
Yeah, right. But I had a seed. And that was what it was. I got a seed. And it was this first moment of going like, wow, maybe this thing I'm living unintentionally that's helping people, maybe intentionally could be useful. So I kind of just tucked in the background and I started focusing on me again, doing my life, trying to, take care of business. And then a few years go by and I'm sitting in a hospital room with my my adoptive mom. And she's at the back end of a 17-year battle with multiple sclerosis. Yeah. And I was literally holding her hand as she took her final breaths. And it was crazy to watch. And it's one of those things where it was very, very finite. And I had this moment prior to that with her privately where I said, Mom, like, I'm going to fix my life and I'm going to love people unconditionally the way you did. Because without you, I'd be in jail. Like, I would literally be a whole different human. And so that was the moment of where I had this thought of like, all right, it's time to do something. Now, I wasn't in a place still at this time to fix my life. I wasn't in a place at least in a place to share how to fix your life. And that was the catalyst for me to get on this horse and start riding, bro. And it was a dark horse. It was me having to go back and take ownership for why my marriage fell apart, why I wasn't in good shape, why my business wasn't doing very well, why I wasn't a present father, why I hadn't accomplished more, like all these things. And I'm telling you, bro, when you start taking real ownership, it hurts. Like it hurts. And you know this. It's when you start looking at your life and go, damn, this is on me. Like whether it's because there's some things that happened to me that weren't my doing, right? But was my responsibility, and I wasn't showing up to responsibly navigate it. And so sure enough, like I was sitting there going like, damn, you got to fix it. And I started having to hop on a lot of conversations that were really hard and a lot of feedback that was really hard, cutting a lot of people off. That was really hard. And then the interesting thing is when you've done so much dark, it's almost like you feel like you want to punish yourself. So doing or having things that are good, you feel like you don't deserve it. And that was a really interesting thing for me to go through. And the only way I could get it was to work towards a level of deserving, kind of like I did when I was in football. I would work towards feeling like I deserved more, the investment bias. And so I started becoming a better dad, got in better shape, became a better business owner, be a better man in a relationship. I'm just better by owning the fact that I sucked at it before. And the more I did, the better I showed up. And a lot of it was just ugly behind the scenes work, dude, just dark work. But here's what it did. It rewired me. I could see myself positively again. I could own myself. I did the whole Eminem thing. Here's all my dirt, world. Put it in a book. So you can't be like, oh, I know this about you. Yeah, everybody does, dog. It's okay. So I put it out there. And the more I did it, the better it got for me as a human. But that's where, and then God does it interestingly. That's where God introduced me to the work that I do now. It was this window of time where I was now aware that this industry existed. I found a great mentor. And I was given a task and a set of tasks I could put my energy towards. And I started doing it. People started liking it. I'd do more of it and share more of it. And people liked it. And I would formulate ideas that at first I thought were stupid, but then people enjoyed it. And I'm like, damn, like there's actually something here, man. I've lived a life without even realizing I've lived some benefit. And the more I did it, the more I gave it out. And now I'm in this point where we're talking a decade later. I have another. I got a bunch of paintings and pictures on my wall in my office, by the way. And
I
one of
remember
them,
you telling me that.
yeah, it says develop dominators' identities. And what
Mm,
I call this is I have what's called a dominator's identity. There's a whole manifesto behind it. But really what it is can I govern and control? Can I be in a space of executing power and dominion over me? And that's the
mm,
big thing, over me, not over people. I'm not trying to commandeer your life, right? But if I can give you a sense of I can dominate, right? You can dominate your morning meditation routine, your diet, your step count for the day. You can dominate your reading routine, right? Can you govern and control yourself? Because what happens if you can, then you can accomplish cool things. You can do things that are difficult. You can be of service to the world. You can be the better husband, better wife, better mom, better dad. You could be all these amazing things to folks, but you got to be able to be in a position of dominance. And so I'd learned how to do it myself. Hence, I say I crossed the finish line. So I feel confident looking back and going, here's how you can better run the race. Because
mm.
most folks, they do get into this work because it looks cool to be the guy or girl on stage and in a podcast. And I don't think you should be telling people how to run the race if you're still running the race.
Mm.
Because say you make a left turn. Hey, everybody make a left turn. When you cross the finish line, you might go, oh, I should have made a right.
That's right.
So for me, it's like I waited till I crossed some finish lines. And now that I have, I'm like, all right, let's do it. And so I can give back to the world from a genuine place of realizing what I'm sharing is of benefit to them because I've gone through that. And if I can continue to do that, it gives a ton of purpose, not only to the pain that God gifted me, say it intentionally, the pain God gifted me, but also it allows me to live a really cool life myself because I'm giving of something that really isn't mine. It's my experience, but it's a story for the world. So I gift that to the world. They benefit from it. They reciprocate financially or by saying thank you, whatever it may be. So I get to go do cool things. And so everybody wins by me experiencing that differently.
So well said. And I love how you delivered that because what you what I heard you say that I connected to and I can relate to is that at first I have to look within. I
Mhm.
had to do a moral inventory on myself, the dark work,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
And to see what role I played in it. Me, it was always everybody else's fault. I mean, everybody was doing it wrong. And I finally realized that nobody was doing anything to me, they were just doing it. And
Yeah.
once I accepted the role I played in it, and I accepted the role I played in it, that's where the relief came. And then that's where God could use me. And that's what I
Mhm.
heard you say. Now I can help. Now I got something to give away. I've
Yeah.
got solutions.
Yeah.
I've got
100%.
solutions. And you and
Yeah.
I don't live in the problem. If you want solutions, you can go with us. We ain't going with you. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I'm not
It,
hanging.
it,
I tell people you get excuses or you get achievements, but you don't get both.
that's right. I love that. And it's so well said. Transformational, transformational identity shift coach.
Yeah.
Please enlighten me on that. What is that?
Yeah. Well, so it's this way. Everything that we have in life is due to habits, actions, and patterns that we operate with. All of us have an operating system, which is an identity, and it's running in the background. A lot of us don't even pay attention to it. We don't even know what's going on. This is how I am. Like, no, it is, but it ain't got to be forever, right? But that unintentional, unplanned thing is creating your life daily. And if you want more, you have to become more. So it's an identity. I have to shift that identity into a higher level. And so for me, it's like the transformational part's what your life will be. Your life will be transformed when you're able to do certain things that are not part of your current identity. It wasn't part of my identity for the football stuff I did. It wasn't part of my identity for being a father at 20 years old. It wasn't part of my identity for the NFL or a business owner or a speaker, right? Never was. But I leaned into these things and I shifted who I was at my core with actions, habits, and patterns to eventually become the kind of person who has that thing. Because I do not believe you can attain or sustain a life above your current identity. It's
Mm,
impossible. And so for me, when I look at people, I go, I'm going to help you transform your life by shifting your identity to what I call a dominator's identity. Now, it's different for everybody. The traits that a woman will have are different from a man will have. The traits that an executive will have will be different from an athlete, right? They're different, but the same core foundation of your principles and values as a dominator, those will show up. My job is to get you into that. And most folks, what they do is there's security in education. There's security in the learning phase, right? I'm just going to read this book and I'm going to take notes and I'm going to go to this seminar and I'm going to take notes and I'm going to go home and it's going to magically transform my life. No, it's not. It's just not. What's going to transform your life is doing those things that make your stomach twist up, makes your butt pucker, makes you like get them cold sweats. That's
Dark work.
It's dark work. It's what it is.
Yeah.
And so the way I look at, like, let's say that it's a hill. At the bottom of the hill is where somebody is right now. Now, the bottom of the hill is different for everybody. The bottom of the hill for someone is they're flat broke. The bottom of the hill for somebody else is they only have $1 million. Sounds weird to say it that way.
Right. It's all relative.
Right. They're at their own bottom of a hill and they want to go to the top of the hill. For some people, it's $10. For some, it's $1 billion, whatever it may be. But there's an individual that they want something higher. Like I said, you got to become the kind of person that has that thing, because that trait that you have to have, like the traits of your identity to have the money or the house or the relationship. Those are identity traits, right? So if you want them, we got to get to the top of the hill, but you got to get up there. How are you going to get up there? Is it got to be a vehicle that gets you up the hill? The vehicle for us is dark work. It's a process. It's a system. It's an experience you go through that rewires you neurologically and psychologically to function at the level of the person who has what you want. So what we do is we show up and we dive in, man. And I don't spend all the time learning. I go, hey, we're going to spend 4 weeks of us really unpacking the areas that you want to improve in your life and what an identity looks like to have that, what things you must identify with later. And then from that, it'll inform us of the habits, the actions, and the patterns you must start to implement in your life. Then we go, all right, let's do it. And for 12 weeks, you do it. Why?
Yeah.
Because the greatest teacher is life. That's it.
You said something that I want everybody to hear here, okay? Because a lot of people are like nodding their head. This is great. The Rocky music's playing in their head. This is awesome, okay? You said one key word. It's 2 letters, okay? In order to do the dark work, it's we. I can't do dark work alone. Okay. When I tried to do the dark work alone, it got me 27 mugshots and in the penitentiary. Okay. Because it's that cycle. I didn't have the tools on how to look at the role I play in it, but it took someone like Anthony Trucks sitting down with me. I'm making up a story here saying, hey, once you quit complaining about your relationship and what she's doing, let's look at the role that you play in it, M2.
Yeah.
Let's look at what role you play in. Yeah, what she's doing, she's gassing you up. Yeah, she shouldn't have said that, but let's look at your role. Yeah. Let's look at the role that you play in it, and let's do some dark work.
You got to. And the thing is most folks, there's a statement that says it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. So like you don't pay attention. It's hard to see who you really are, and when someone's able to give you that, it doesn't feel good. But now you get informed, and then you also do need to have folks that'll stretch you, because the person that I wanted to be. It wasn't until somebody made me, like, they stretched me, I call it 1 inch out of my comfort zone. I go, oh, it's going to be hard. But they go, yeah, but you could do it. And they almost like they see something more in you. And then what happens is not only do they keep you accountable, they celebrate you along the way. And we need both those things. You need to have people that can get in your corner and be like, no, it's not good enough. Let's go harder. Like, and not let your excuse be accepted by yourself so you stay small. But also when you overcome it, someone to celebrate it with you, because no one likes to cheer for themselves alone in a room, right? So that one person sometimes is all you need, but accountability is a huge piece of it. And so from the planning, the ideation, all that stuff, you need other minds. And if you do it properly, you can come out of that thing a whole different human. Like that's everybody we know. Think about it. For almost everybody, everybody, every person you know that's in some manner doing something at a higher level than maybe you see. They've all done this. Now they may be doing it in a negative way. Maybe they became, I don't know, like a stripper. I'm making something up as a random thing, right? But they had to get skilled enough to like to dance and get on stage and let's do it, right? They had to elevate in some way towards something. And so if you are looking at the people you are like you're inspired by, or you look at what they do and you have some kind of like, man, it's cool. You feel like respectable. They've done this. That's it. Right. Here's what happens. There's 2 ways they can do it. And the 2 ways, one's good, one sucks. Option 1 is you do it on demand. It's the good one. I choose to right now. The choose to person brought a dominant, dangerous human, because every time you see them, they're better. Why? Because they wanted to be. And that's honestly, for the world out there, like that's a dangerous, in a good way, human, because they're not waiting for the other part of it, which is they're on demand or when crap hits the fan. Right. That's the bad one. I wait until something goes wrong and all of a sudden I got to muster up some energy and then I solve the problem and I go, but you could have done that 6 years ago. Why did I have to, why'd you just sit there in this toil and trouble for 6 years? Wake up, right? And so the person's either on demand or when crap hits the fan. And so for me, I go, wake up, do it on demand, be intentional, be dangerous in a positive way.
Love that. And sometimes what I tell them is that, based on my experience, the pain just wasn't bad enough yet.
True.
When the pain gets bad enough, we start looking upward and listening to someone else.
Yeah.
For someone who's listening and watching this right now, if and they have this question and go, oh my God, I wish M2 would ask this question. And let's say you're speaking, it's a Q&A, and someone raises their hand and they say, Anthony, how do I find my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
How do I find my identity? I hear you. How do I do that? Who am I?
Two different ways, man. Well, one of them, I don't think you find your identity. I think you develop it. Because the identity, it first found us by teachers, preachers, coaches, leaders, television, radio, news, media. It found us. We just consumed stuff and didn't realize it was shaping us and programming us the entire time. So I don't think you find the identity. I think there is a mentality around God has created a certain identity for us to step into, and the world puts a bunch of muck on top of it. But at a certain point, I think God also gave us free will and gave us hardship. John 16:33, in this life there will be hardship. I tell these things so you may have heart because I have overcome the world. And so essentially he's saying, like, the world's going to be tough. If you got me in you, I've overcome it. I'm going to be good. Like, you're going to be good too. But the idea is, like, he gives you situations to where you can step in and develop that identity through the hardship. It's that whole iron sharpens iron. Like, it's all there. And so I go, identity-wise, you choose to develop it and you lean in, being given free will, given opportunities, and given the life it's already in front of you. The other part is, how do you find your purpose? And it's interesting because those will overlap a little bit, but here's the concept of what I've noticed about purpose development or finding. It's the third step on an interesting path. Here's the first step of it. The first step is curiosity. Most people have a curiosity about something. It tickles their mind, right? And usually what happens is when you're presented with an idea, you have one of two choices. You can lean into the curiosity or let the rest of the world tell you it's stupid, tell you you're dumb, and you go, I don't want to get cast out from my tribe or get alienated, so I'm not going to chase what I'm curious about. The reality is, though, is curiosity is where everything that we come to find and be passionate about later on and purposeful, it starts there because it's where you'll give uncounted hours. Everything else, I'm looking at it going like, when's this, a plank for a minute? Oh my gosh, right? I got another 45-minute workout, right? You don't want to do it sometimes. Or it's like, oh, I'm going to read. Okay, I got to read. If you don't want to read, I got to watch this, whatever it is. You're looking at the clock like, when's it going to be done, right? When I'm curious, Michael, I'll do stuff for like 5 hours and forget it. We took 5 hours. Like, I have quite literally one time spent 16 hours making an app because I was curious about how do you make an app. So I made a habit tracking app, and one day I was like clicking buttons, I was breaking stuff. I'm like, this is amazing, right? The day goes by, I go, man, I understand it now, but it's pure curiosity. But if you are bold enough to chase something with curiosity, you get to go to the gifted next stage, which is passion. When I have given hours to something, I get the investment bias. I go, man, I love this. I'm so thrilled. I know how to race snails. There's a whole community of snail race. It's like, what? This snail race? You get curious. You find this passion for something, and people look at you and go, this person's crazy. You're not crazy. You just have stepped over the line of the 50+% of people who aren't happy in life. You are now in the minority that have people that enjoy life or see something curious and cool because you're passionate about something. Right. But I think it's not purpose yet. It's passion. Here's what passion does. Passion has you do things even though people think it's stupid. Curiosity, you'll get shut down if somebody said you're stupid. Passion, you don't care. I don't care, dude. I'm gonna play this game. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm with this. Let's have fun. You'll dress funny. You'll go out and be whatever. Think about the guys that are passionate about Magic the Gathering.
I got the fastest snail. in the country.
People do stuff because then you find your tribe. You start finding other people who are also passionate about it. Now you feel like you're not alone anymore, but because you were bold enough to step out on this thing that you were curious about. And then what happens is, on this journey of passion, which we all have this journey of passion, here's what happens. Those who continue the journey far enough, they stumble into a pothole of purpose. I find it's almost accidental, like it slaps you in the face while you're moving, though. You can't sit down and go, what's my purpose in life? You don't get that gift by sitting in a chair. You got to move. So curious, passion, and then as the passion's moving, you stumble into something like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed. This is what I think I'm supposed to do. So as an example, I look at my life. I was curious about the industry of like fitness and stuff. I'm like, how's this whole thing work? Like my athlete body. And so I learned it in college, got a degree. I came out, opened a gym. This is awesome. Then I get curious about this idea of like me sharing all this stuff I'm learning by training thousands of athletes. So I'm teaching at these different events about what I learned when training my athlete for agility and change of direction, right? All this stuff is kind of cool. I'm passionate about it. I'm kind of unpacking it. And then I start loving this thing of talking. I'm like, I actually enjoy speaking to people. For some reason, I like being the center of attention. Like, this is kind of cool, right? But I'm just talking about fitness. Then after a
Right.
while, I start finding out there's this area where I can take the information and make it more valuable than my hour time spent coaching somebody. This is consulting. I'm like, dang, I can go teach companies this stuff. They actually care about it in a weird way. It helps their people be in better shape and more, effective at work. Like, this is cool. So I'm still talking, but in a different manner with more value to higher levels. I get paid more to do it. And then somebody goes, hey, the mentor I told you about, if you're talking, you can talk about this, which is my life. And I go, talk about my life. Oh, I don't know about that. But I was curious. I was still passionate about speaking, and I was going down the journey of speaking. So I'm still doing this. And I go, okay, I'm going to boldly go and just start talking about my life story. People start loving it. I go, man, they actually enjoy this. And little by little, I got better at speaking, better at telling stories, and better at flow. And I've stumbled into my pothole of purpose doing this stuff. I honestly don't know what else I'm supposed to in the world. I couldn't tell you, dude. I've tried to think about it. I'm like, if you tucked me behind a desk, I'd feel like I was robbing the world of the gift that God gave them. And it's
Wow.
not like this arrogant thing. It's just knowing that a human like me, there aren't a whole bunch of us, yourself included. There's not a whole lot of us. And it's not so much that we were born to be special, but we actually answer the call of our uniqueness. And we're trying to help other people answer the same exact call for them. We all have a unique story. We all have these cool things. Like the clients I coach, I'm honored to coach them because the way I get to coach them is to be this person that I can learn from when they actually become their best self. So I'm like helping develop people that are helping develop me. It's super cool to see. But the idea is like, I can't do anything else because I don't think that in doing that other thing, it'd be better as a fit for my life than what I'm doing now. So that for me, I go, that must be my purpose.
And as we land this is all a result of doing the dark work.
All day, man.
Because my takeaway from this, and you're reminding me of this, is that when I do the dark work, and what it is doing a moral inventory on myself. Things are just always chaotic, always crazy. And then I finally say, you know what? Time out. I got to look at what role I play in this. I do the dark work. And here's the beautiful thing is that we get to find out what we're good at.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about it. What I learned, this is what I'm good at. My biggest character defect, Anthony, my whole life was this mouthpiece. I mean, I could out spitbox anybody, right?
Yeah.
Now today, as a result of doing the dark work, and I feel it through you, the words that come out of our mouth is from our heart and not from here. Because if it comes from here, we're all going to penitentiary, right?
Yeah. It's got to flow. But yeah, you got to live it though for it to come out of that place. If it's not there, it can't come out of you.
Oh, beautiful. Let's have some fun here for a second. Anthony Trucks here on M2 The Rock. Check him out at anthonytrucks.com. We got a big we got some football coming up. I got to dive back into football, and you got Oregon Ducks ranked #1, and my University of Texas Longhorns are ranked #2.
Yeah.
Give me a prediction. I know what your prediction is.
Oh yeah, the Ducks are going to win a national championship this year, man. It's the year. It's finally the year. We've been waiting for a long time, but it's about time, man.
Now, when you played there, did y'all get new uniforms every single week? Was it?
We had my freshman year, we had the old school unis. My junior and junior year, we had these interchangeable like white, highlighter, yellow, and green. So we'd mix them and kind of change them around. But it was my senior year that they actually released like the first black jersey. It was actually my last home game at Autzen Stadium. And so we finally had like these new uniforms. But then after me is when it kind of went crazy. Like I wasn't there with all the new helmets and all that kind of stuff they do now. But for sure it was like right after I left.
A couple of questions to end. All right. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite NFL football team?
At the moment, I'd probably say the Niners just because it's hometown team. I'm in the Bay Area, so I'm a Niners. Right. I went to the Super Bowl last year and they lost. That wasn't fun, but I'm saying Niners fan. But it's weird because I never played for them. The team that I enjoyed playing for the most when I was there was the Pittsburgh Steelers, though.
Right. And your favorite leader, the guy that you look up to.
Oh, that's a good one. Who's my favorite leader? Dude,
if you could just chop it up and hang out with a guy for an hour or girl, whoever it is, and you want what they got, who would that be?
Dude, that's a great question. Who would I want to talk to for an hour? How weird of a question for me not to have a definitive answer for. So there's a lot of, so I'll say one of the best people that's ever led me was Mike Tomlin, who's just he had a great mentality around raising and developing men. So I respect that. My coach DP from college was great as well. I got a buddy, Brendan Burchard. It's awesome to see him lead how he does in the world. It's kind of cool. Some people just like, I got people that are hometown friends. I like how they lead themselves and lead their families also. Like, it's nothing crazy, but for an hour spent with somebody, you know, it sounds stupid, but I'd like to meet me in 20 years.
Ooh.
You know, because I want to know, because here's the thing, I could talk to anybody all day. We can both do this, but I don't fully grasp everybody's mind. I don't fully grasp yours. I don't grasp my wife's, and I've been married to her for 20 years. Like, you know, so let's just say that's kind of a little piece there. But I know me, and so I feel like knowing like the mind that has seen where I am at now and progressed up to where it's at, I'd like to know, like, what do I do? Like, where am I going? How can I do it better? Like, what are some things I didn't pay attention to when I should have at this age? It's little stuff like that. What would I give me as advice to be able to do better? That's the person I'd like to talk to.
Yeah. Is it okay to love ourselves? Is it okay to high five ourselves and say, man, I'm the man?
You got to. You know, sometimes years ago, somebody told me you have to be able to get to a point in your life where you can tell other people how awesome you are while them feeling uplifted as you do it.
Ooh.
It's a weird way to look at it, but it's because it's not saying that I'm awesome, so because I'm awesome, you suck. It's saying I'm awesome and I've gone through stuff. There's hope for you. Like, that's the way of framing it. And so, yeah, dude, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You have to. But I'll tell you this, you can't love yourself if you don't respect yourself. And you can't respect yourself if you don't have a level of determination and discipline that lets you look at yourself and go, I should respect that person. So when you say, I'm going to do this thing, and you don't do that thing, well, you lose respect. If you lose respect, you lose love. So the biggest way to love yourself in time really is to have discipline, have a goal, have an aspiration towards something, and stay disciplined to it. You do that, the sky's the limit for your life.
I saved this one. I couldn't wait to ask you this question. I did prep this one. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
40-yard dash. Who wins, you or Mrs. Trucks?
Oh, that's me right now. For her,
come on.
For a few years, the last probably like 6-7 years would be her. But then I just got back to hitting the track. I'm down 35 pounds from when we used to run. So I'm light right now and I'm strong. I beat her in a 40. We actually do race right now, and I beat her, and we do 100-meter sprints. I beat her in those right now. But typically,
but she's got wheels. She's got wheels, doesn't she?
Well, if you go past 100 meters, she's got me for sure. But 100 meters, I'm gonna get her.
Anthony Trucks, thank you so much for stopping by. And for everyone, we'll have everything in the description, anthonytrucks.com. Check out his amazing website, his schedule, and please email him if you want to hire Anthony to come out to your corporations, your businesses, whatever, and come out there and crank you up. Anthony, we always end the show this way, is I got 3 words.
All right.
And it's got 8 letters, and it's only got one meaning. 3 words, 8 letters, and it's got one meaning. And that is, I love. You got it. You got it. You're the first one. I love you, bro.
All right, love you too, dog. I appreciate that. Yeah, I a couple of times I was like, what has 8 letters? Okay, I got it. Yeah, we locked it in.
From all of us here at M2 The Rock, you know what to do. You go make it a great day.